Hello and welcome to this month, February, featured designer chat. I'll be talking with Cam of Hand Knit by Cam, and I'm super excited. And here is Cam. Let's see here. This is always the most awkward part, where you're trying to get coordinated. There we are. Hello, Cam.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I've been running around all day, but I'm happy to sit down and relax a little bit and chat with you.
Good. Yes. I'm so excited to chat. This will be a lot of fun.
Yes.
So thanks to everybody joining us live. If you have any questions, of course, pop those in the comments. We're excited to have you here and excited to chat all things designing and creativity and all that kind of stuff. So for folks who don't know who I am Jessica, the knitting pattern designer and design mentor behind Snickerdoodle Knits and the Design Circle. Quick announcement for designers in my audience. I released 52 Weeks of Creativity with a fellow designer last week, and the giveaway for that ends today. So if you are planning on getting in that, today is the last day. But what we're here to chat about is to chat about Cam, the designer behind Hand Knit by Cam. So do you want to tell us, actually, first, let's talk about what we're wearing, because we'll probably get questions there, and then talk about who you are.
Okay.
So what are you wearing?
Important things first.
Yes.
Today, this is my, I'm going to take it off so I can show you. This is my tea time wrap.
Yes, I love it.
This is fingering yarn and mohair together. And then some more fingering yarn and a very nice, I don't know if you can see it, like a lace detail.
Yes, it's so pretty.
Yes, I love it. I love it. It's pretty, it keeps me warm.
Yeah.
And it's just fun.
Yes, and that's you're wearing that in your profile picture, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it's so pretty. Penny said hi.
Hello.
I am wearing it's called In a Mood Shawl. It's currently in test knitting, but it's a create your own adventure style is what I'm calling it. Basically, I give you 4 stitch motifs and you can choose which you want to use and what order you want to use it and how big the shawl is and what weight of yarn it is and all of that.
Oh, that sounds fun.
So test knitters are absolutely loving it. I have absolutely loved it. I knit up this sample in worsted weight, I think, or Aran. Right now, I'm working on a DK weight version that is completely different. And this is the actual sample with the dyer's yarn. And I also have a sample that I've started in fingering weight that is completely different from the other two.
That's nice.
So, oops, that's the wrong side. But anyway, that is
Hi, Maria-Liz.
I am wearing. So, Cam, you want to talk a little bit about who you are?
Well, yes. What would you like to know? I am originally from Mexico, but we moved to Canada, I think, a long while ago. I'm going to say that. And yeah, so we've been living here, my husband and I, and then we have our 3 kids. And so, yeah, I'm a stay-at-home mom, but I'm also a knitwear designer. I graduated from university for industrial design. So when I was living in Mexico, I used to design furniture. And that's a big change from furniture to knitwear. But I mean, what I want to say is that design has always been a part of my life, you know? So if I'm not doing, I'm always doing something, creating something, sketching things. Like everybody finds little sketches everywhere. And Mama, you're leaving your stuff everywhere. But yeah. And yeah, and then I think it was in 2017, I started like selling my own patterns. one of my friends told me one day, like, you should really just like write them down and, you know, like put them out there. I was like, oh, okay, that sounds a little bit scary. And one lady from Midnight, like I was telling them during Midnight that this friend told me that I should do that. And one of the ladies from Midnight used to dye yarn. So she said, I'll give you 2 skeins of yarn and you design something. And that is how it started. And then she told me, I'm having a trunk show and I wanted to come with the design for the trunk show. So I was like, okay. And then when I got to the trunk show, I didn't even know what a trunk show was, to be honest. I was like, okay. So I'm just like, okay. I went. And then she's like, oh, no, stand up and talk about the show. I'm like, what? That was a little bit nerve-wracking. But at the same time, it felt amazing. And after that, I just like started collaborating with her and with other dyers. And yeah, that's been, honestly, that's how it started. And it's just like getting better and better. And it's been great to have the opportunity to meet a lot of people through the craft. It has been amazing. I think it's one of the things that I like the most.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like you just got pushed into it by some friends and didn't really know what you were getting into, but it ended up being amazing.
Yes. Honestly, yeah.
That's great. I love that. So I did want to talk about your background in designing and creativity. So where did it all start? Because I knew before that you had the degree that you had and that you worked with furniture and stuff. So did you grow up with a lot of like, were your parents creative? Did you do a lot of creative stuff growing up? Have you always been interested in arts?
Yeah, well, my dad is an architect.
Okay.
My grandma, she used to design and sell jewelry. She would like it. It's not like she designed it. Like her friends would bring her jewelry that they didn't want anymore, and she would transform that. Like she would get that done into something else. So
Wow.
all my life, I lived around, you know, like things like that. When I was little, I would sit down and instead of like drawing nice pictures, I will draw like the prints for the house, you know, like what's the word for that? Like
Floor plans?
the floor plans, yeah, for houses. And this is going to be a room, and this is going to be the kitchen. That was my drawing when I was little. So I guess that, yeah. And then when I growing up, I think I was maybe in high school. I bought like a lot of like beads and silver and things like that, and I used to design little things, and I would sell it to like whoever I decided was a good customer for me. I would just like go to my friends' houses and sit down with the moms and be like, I did this. So you want to buy something? So I would like get a little bit of money from there. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then I decided, okay, I want to go into industrial design because that career opened paths for different designs. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't sure exactly what it was that I wanted to design, but I wanted to know a little bit of each thing. So in university, I learned design with ceramics. I designed a car. I designed furniture. I did a lot of different paths. I experimented in a lot of different paths, and that was amazing. And then when I graduated, I got a job designing furniture and exhibits for museums or trade shows and things like that. And that was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work. So when we moved to Canada, I knew that I loved that, but I didn't really want to do that. So I got a job, like I think it was maybe like the second week of living in Canada. I was walking through a design store, like a furniture store that I love, and they had like this little paper on the window that they were looking for someone for sales. And I was like, I'm just gonna drop my resume there. I don't know. When I think back, I'm like, I was a very confident person back then. I just got to Canada and I want to work here. So, and I think like they interviewed me. We liked each other, I guess, and they gave me the job and I was very happy and I learned a lot there. And then my husband that was in Vancouver, and then my husband got a job here in Ontario. So we moved, and I had a little bit like a newborn baby, and I was feeling maybe a little bit lonely. Like I didn't really know anyone here. Ontario is very cold compared to Vancouver. It's like, this is not exactly what I was expecting. So I started to do a lot of knitting, a lot of crochet. And yeah, and that like little by little, I started like doing things. And then the library where I lived before, like they were looking for someone to host knit night. So I left my information one day, and they called me and I said, well, yes, please come and host knit night. I'm like, okay. So that's how I met all the knitting ladies, and one thing. And I started going to shows. I didn't even know there were shows. But yeah, that's how it
Yeah.
all started.
I love like just different parts of your story, how it's like when you just, even like talk to one person about what you're interested in, like how many different places that can lead to. And like, like you said you must have been confident or whatever then. I think a lot of times it's just like you feel so passionate about it. It's like I have nothing to lose in trying this. So you just tell somebody, like you apply for the job or you start whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's, it's easy to feel imposter syndrome and different things when we think too much about it. But like when we just follow what we're interested in, it's kind of amazing all the paths that open up to us.
Yes. So
Um,
true. Imposter syndrome is terrible.
yes, yes. So I am curious, just going back to your childhood, did you see a lot of your dad's work? Like, did you see a lot of the behind the scenes behind what he was designing and creating? Or did you just know that he was an architect and you had an interest in floor plans and things like that?
No, like he would bring the floor plans home. And when my dad started like he opened his I don't know, like his studio or
Huh?
whatever you
Yep.
want to call it. It was this is a long time ago, so it was like Adobe Acrobat was just starting, and architects were just starting to use that. And my dad would spend hours at home working with it because he went to the States to learn, and he brought it back to Mexico.
Yeah.
So it was just very interesting to me. And he would print all the things and have all the rolls of paper there, and he would take us to whatever things he was doing. And I think that we were all very involved in everything, like all the process of what was happening, right? So yeah.
That's so fun. Then my next question was, in your schooling in industrial design, were there any other design avenues that you found really interesting or intriguing, or something like if you just had the opportunity to dabble in one of them for fun right now that you would choose?
Oh yeah. Well, my friends back in university used to tease me, and they would say like, "Oh, you're going to be so famous, and you're going to have like your jewelry line, and we're going to go to the store." And be like, oh, I went to school with her, So that is something that I've always thought like I would love to learn more about that.
Yeah.
And ceramics is also something that I see, and I'm always like, oh, that looks so nice. But it's also like it feels like it is a very time consuming, and like right now I don't think it's the thing that I should be working on. But those two things are something that I've always been interested in. So yeah, I love that. I would love to be able, like maybe, just like find somewhere where they have classes and just take a couple of classes or something like that, just to like take out that chip of my shoulder, like, okay, now I learned. I can with my life now.
Yes. Yeah, that's so neat. You mentioned ceramics. That's something that I've thought would always be so interesting to dabble in. I've never done anything with it, but I'm like, it would just be fun to like take some pottery classes and just learn how to like use the wheel and create things.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. In university, when I was back in university, they had like during that semester, like the whole workshop was just working with ceramics. And by the end, like we had to design, like a mug, a plate, things like that.
Yeah.
And there was a contest. So I won. That was amazing. I love it.
Yes.
But it was also like, because then we had to produce, like we had to do it. And I was like, oh my goodness. And it was a lot of fun. I remember that there was like this man that the teachers brought, that he had his own studio, and he came and he taught us, and we just like learned so much from him. It was amazing. It was really nice. Yeah.
Steel City Stitchery said ceramics are super fun. There's a learning curve, but once you get it, it feels so natural.
Yeah, and it looks always like, when you see like the pictures of what people create like on Instagram and things like that, I'm almost like, I want to learn how to do that. That would be so much fun. Yeah.
So fun just to watch it. Like, I follow several potters on Instagram just because it's so, like, they'll share their reels of them working the process, and I just find it so fascinating.
Yeah, me too. I'm always like, oh wow. That came out of like a little brick of clay. I cannot believe that. But it's amazing what they do. And then when they put like everything on the clean, and like, oh, I love it.
Yeah. So I talked with somebody yesterday on her podcast. I don't know when it's going to be airing, but it's Kinsey with Feel Good Social. But we talked a lot about creativity, and this conversation is reminding me of that, because there's so many different forms of creativity and so many different forms of art. And like obviously we're knitting pattern designers, but there's so many other art forms and creative forms out there. It's just, there's a whole world of options.
Yeah, it's true. And sometimes it's with the same material, but such different processes, and it tools
and
like
interpretations. And like, I was we were talking about my trauma story from 5th grade when my art teacher wasn't impressed with my painting. But we're just talking about like different interpretations of art and what we think is beautiful or interesting, or like, even if you just look at one medium, say knitwear, like the huge variety of options that there are in different styles and techniques and constructions, and not everything's going to be for everybody, but it's really neat to see all of the different ways that creativity.
Yeah. I was this past weekend, I think it was, or maybe was it this week? I don't remember. The days are blurry right now. But a couple of days ago, I took a workshop with this girl. She's from, I think she's in Chile right now, and it was a workshop for like designing knitting patterns. And I was just curious to know like the approach. So I was there, and she said something that, I don't know, for me it felt like so magical the way she saw it, because she said like there was 15 of us, and she said like, here we have 15 different ways of solving something. Like everybody is going to have their own way, and each way is a good way. Like it's not because your way is different means that it's bad, or it's just like we all see and solve things in a different way. And I just thought like that is so truth. I don't know, like that is like that is the truth, and that is just like, wow, that is an amazing way of seeing it. Instead of thinking this is another 14 people that I have to compete with or whatever, like this is just like 14 more people that are going to solve something in a different way than what I'm going to do. So it's so interesting just to learn about that.
Yeah, I love that. I kind of try to talk a bit in the design circle about how, like, it's easy as designers, like there's so many of us, it's easy to feel like we should be in competition with each other, and that like, we're competing to get our patterns out there. But in reality, we're each so different. I often talk about how different our journeys are. Like, it's easy to look at some successful designer and feel like you're supposed to follow that path because that's the path to success. But we're so unique as people, and therefore our journeys and what we accomplish as business owners and designers should not look the same.
Exactly. And the whole point of being a designer is to get a chance to create and to express something that you have inside of you that you want to share with the world. So
Yes.
why would you want it to be the same as someone else?
Yes. Yeah. And I think so. This is what I talk a lot about this also, but I think it's so important to remember why you started it and why you're passionate about it, because that will help you to stick to what is authentic to you in your designs and also in your business. Because when you remember, like your purpose in what you're creating probably isn't to be Andrea Mowry or something. Your purpose, like you said, it's to create your own designs to share with the world. And so our journeys shouldn't look like somebody else if our purpose isn't to be just like that.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. It's just like, but we have to, sometimes you kind of like steer away from things, but you have to kind of like, okay, let's go back. I'm going to go back to my path.
Yes, yes.
It's hard. It's hard not to compare yourself, and it's hard not to feel sometimes like all these people are doing what it feels to you that is like so great, and you look at yourself and you're like, no, maybe I'm not doing so great, but there are a lot of people that look at you and think the same thing. So
Yes.
it's just like having like that, like open-mindedness of me, you know what, and like you said, like I'm just going to do my thing, and I'm going to stick to that, because that is what makes you you.
Yes, yes. And I find it so helpful that as we're able to connect, like the way we've been able, Cam and I have been friends for over a year now, just talking about business journeys and stuff like that. I think as we connect more with each other and understand the behind the scenes and not just the Instagram feeds, it makes it a lot easier to not compare, because we're like, oh, it's not just a piece of cake for them. I'm not doing something totally wrong. We're all just trying to figure it out, trying to figure out our path and our journey and what's right for us, trying to figure out our design style, trying to figure out how it fits in with our lives. Because even though we're all pattern designers, we also have completely different lives that we're living simultaneously. um, where, yeah, I find it really, really valuable to connect with other designers, whether that's in a group setting or, you know, one-on-one or whatever. Just to realize, like, we're all in the same boat. Like,
Yeah. And everybody's going through the same thing that you think that you're the only one that this
yeah,
is happening to. But like it's like you're not that alone.
no,
Feel
yeah,
alone. At the same time, yes, it's amazing to be able to talk to people who like are really honest about their journey, like
yes,
you don't do it just to look nice good. You're like, you have to be honest about where you are and how you're feeling, and that way is when I feel like you like cement good relationships, and like, okay, if I'm stuck with something, I can ask them, because I know that they're going to be like encouraging, but at the same time honest.
yeah.
Sometimes they say like, that's not a good idea, don't do that.
Yeah, and I think to get to that point, I've had this conversation with a few different people, but I think to get to that point where you can actually really trust somebody, especially when they're doing the same thing, both pattern designers, it takes vulnerability. We have to be willing to say, I'm not perfect, I'm struggling. And the other person has to be willing to do that in order for there to be this mutual trust.
Yeah.
And then once we're willing to be vulnerable and open, there's so much more that's opened up. Like, so many barriers are broken down, and then so many opportunities just for connection and collaboration and encouraging each other and all of that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that shows, through the screen. It shows when you're working with people who you like really connect with, or like when you have a friendship or anything, people notice, like it doesn't feel fake, because sometimes you kind of see things and like, so, yeah.
Yes. All right. So I want to go back to your journey as a designer. When did you start working with yarn and fiber in general? Did you start with knitting like after you had your first child, or when did you start working with yarn?
No, actually, it's funny because my little sister in Mexico, was doing like some scarf or something, or I don't even remember what she was doing. Oh no, she liked to do those little cute crochet. What's the name? The amigurumi.
Amigurumi, yep.
Yeah, she loved to do those. And one time she tried to teach me, and we couldn't get past the slip knot. And she was like, you know what? Why don't you go back to like drawing or doing whatever that is not related to this because you're not good. I'm like, okay. So I just left it. And then living in Canada before I had my baby, one of our friends, well, my friend, she knew how to knit and how to crochet, and one day she told us like, I can show you if you want. Like it's very I was like, oh, okay. So I remember this perfectly. Like we took the bus to a Michael's store. We bought whatever we thought was good for us, and we came back to her house, and she taught us. But then, of course, like when I got back home, I didn't remember anything. So I started like using YouTube just to learn. The first thing that I did, like it was I don't know. It was a very weird thing that when I showed it to my husband, he was like, that is a practice run, right? Because it has holes everywhere. And some parts I didn't remember if I was purling or knitting, and I didn't understand, like the
Yeah.
difference or anything. So it was just like a mess. But after that, I just like started doing little things here, little things there. Like at the beginning, honestly, every time I had to cast on something, I had to go back to YouTube.
Yeah.
Because people think like, oh, you learn and then no, like I had to go back to YouTube to and figure out how to cast on, because it took me so long to knit something that by the end I forgot how to start the next thing.
Yes.
What? Yeah, so that's what happened. And then when I had my baby, I kind of went back to it and started doing just like a little dinosaur hat that I did for him, like things like that. And just this having fun, trying to figure out things, and I realized that it was something that I really liked. So I just like started spending more and more time, with it. But
Yes.
at the beginning, I didn't know there were like hand dyed yarns, and I would never touch little needles. Like I love like the thick needles, like things like that. And slowly I started like learning. Like I told you, I started volunteering at the library for knit night. That was amazing because I learned so much from there, and different patterns, different like everything. So that was very nice, and that's how it all started. YouTube.
Yes, yes. What would I do without YouTube?
Yeah.
So do you have any idea what year it would have been you started knitting? Like how long was it before you started knitting to when you started designing?
I think that was maybe around like 2010.
Okay.
And then I started designing, like selling my patterns, and in 2017.
Yeah. So do you want to tell us before you started designing a little bit about, you said you had been selling knits?
Oh yes, the art gallery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the ladies from Midnight told me that she was taking like her cows and the things that she was doing to the gallery, and she said like, oh, you should like bring your things and show because I used to like work on things that I didn't write down, but they were like, not things that I found anywhere, but I just like did them. And I had a lot of things at home. So she's like, you should like bring them here and sell them. And I was like, okay. So I went to the gallery, and she introduced me to the lady there. And they were like, oh, no, yes, for sure. Bring them. We will have them at the gallery store. We will sell them like on commission, like things like that. And like every spring, I would like just bring a bunch, spring and fall, I remember. I would like bring a bunch of stuff. And then this lady used to live close to the gallery, and she would say like, I just saw my neighbor walking around her dogs wearing your cowl, or I just, like things like that. And I thought that was amazing because
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. And I did have like a little like Etsy shop where I tried to like sell my things, but mostly only my friends bought from me, which I have always been very grateful for that. Like they were always like, buying things from me for gifts for their daughters, you know, things like that. So but yeah, that's how it started. And then the gallery decided to close the shop and use that space for more like studios and like more gallery space. But I was already selling my patterns by then.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was
That's
a lot of fun. I think that was an amazing experience.
yeah. So then like when you were selling at the gallery, was it a lot of like chunky knits, or you already said you kind of made up designs?
Yeah, it was a lot of chunky knits. Yes, a lot of stuff with cables and things. I went to a phase where I only wanted to knit cables.
Yes, yes.
So there were a lot of like cows with cables, and I would do like scarves and hats or headbands, like things like that, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a lot of fun, and not a lot of like fingering weight yarn or things like that. Somewhere between selling at the gallery and started to like do my own designs, I learned how to knit socks. Another friend that I met somewhere else, she is a great sock knitter, and she's like, I'm going to teach you, because how can you say you're a knitter and you don't know how to do this? I was like, what? And she told me like, you need the DPNs, this and that. I was like, what is DPNs? Like, I don't. So when I saw them, I was like, oh, this is going to be so hard. So she came home one day, like I remember this perfectly. She like just gave me some like sock yarn and it's like cast on this amount of stitches and do this and do that, but everything, like there was nothing written on paper or anything. So she just knew what to do. So that first sock was a disaster. Like the toe was not where it's supposed to be. Like it was a little bit crooked because I didn't keep pace or where like the beginning of the row was, you know, things like that.
Yes.
But it was a good practice. And after that, okay, I was like a little bit like, I'm going to YouTube this and I'm going to learn how to properly do this. And then I just like started.
Yeah, that's so fun. And now you do quite a bit of sock knitting.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Um, do you do top down or cuff down or toe up?
Cuff down. Cuff down is my preference. It's
Yeah.
what I enjoy the most. I tried doing toe up, but I don't know. Maybe I was not in the right headspace to try something new that time. But yeah, I was like, no, this is not working. Let's just like throw the whole thing and I'm going to start it the way I like it. But yeah, I love it. It's fun, and socks are very portable. When you are a mom like me, especially like before COVID and everything, that I had to go pick up the boys from school. Sometimes I remember like I had to get there very early because it was a little parking lot.
Yes.
So I would always take my socks with me. So I was just sitting there in the car knitting my socks, and it was perfect because I can just like put them away when I need to get off of there. You know, like I
Yeah.
didn't think that much. So I love I love that. And I miss parking lot knitting.
Yes.
Yeah, I loved it. It was like that, you know, like maybe 20 minutes of the day when I was like no sound, no anything, just me knitting in the car. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so I want to hear a little bit more about your first design. So you mentioned, a friend basically convinced you to start designing, but how did that first design go? Because you basically had been designing before, but you hadn't really been writing the patterns.
Yes. So that first design was a lot of fun. It is crescent shaped shawl. It's called the nido shawl. Nido is the word nest. It's a word in Spanish for nest. So, and it was inspired by the spring colors that I got for the design. And yeah, it's when I go back to it, I see like maybe I should have like picked a simpler shape for the first design, you know. But I decided to go with a crescent shawl. And it was a lot of fun. It was mostly garter, like yes, was it? yeah, garter stitch, like, and then a little bit of lace at the end. And while I was writing the design, I was learning the things. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
going to say I felt 100% confident that I knew what I was doing. No. But, like, I just kind of like went through the designs that I from other designers that I have worked on before, and I saw what I liked and what I didn't like from the way that they wrote them down, and then I kind of just like try to do something that made more sense to me. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. That project was a lot of fun, and but yes, honestly, just learning while I was doing it. I would like knit the row and write exactly what I did. Like, so it took me a very long time because I would write down every row. It like, and the rows were like knit and purl. Like, it was like, but I would be like, I I I don't know, knit 155 stitches here and then purl 100, like. But I wanted to make sure that it was correct, and I was very meticulous about like what I was doing and how I was doing it. So yeah, it was a fun experience. Like the other day I was thinking actually like how much my process has changed, and
Yeah.
how much more confident I feel now that I know what I'm doing. Like, I'm not making this up. This is going to work. I know what I'm doing. I still have a notebook with me when I'm knitting, because even if I know what I'm doing, I need to write it down because I
Yes.
forget. But yeah, I don't know. Like now, it feels like it's more like it flows in an easier way than before. Before it was always like, oh, I have to. Even like I even had to take time to write. This is the wrong side. This is the right side. Because I just like was very nervous about putting something out that was not good. But
Yes.
now I'm like, okay, like I know what I'm doing. I can do this, and I feel more comfortable experimenting and like challenging myself with new things or things that look like feel like they're going to be hard. And then when I'm doing them, like this is not hard at all. Like why did I try this before? But yeah,
Yeah, I love that. So then after your first design, how long was it till you released your second one? Like, did you just start like designing a whole bunch, or did you kind of take breaks?
that first time in my head, I had the idea of doing like the needle shawl was like a spring shawl.
Hmm.
And then I designed the Oceano shawl, which means the ocean. And that was a summer shawl. And then I got sidetracked from there because my idea was to do a fall shawl and a winter shawl. But then I kind of like just after those two, it just like started. And I just kept going and going and going. And also at that time, I used to only work on one thing at a time. Like
Hmm.
if it was socks, I was only knitting socks. If it was shawls, I was only knitting that shawl. Like, so yes, it took me like 3 or 4 months to get to the new design because I was only working on that. And but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, a good learning curve, I think.
Yeah. So now your design process, what does it look like? Like, what are you inspired by? Where do you get your ideas from? And then how does that flow into the pattern?
It is, well, sometimes I start with just a word, like I want like this word that comes to my head, and I'm like, I have to do something around this word, like, or, but sometimes I'm even like sometimes it's like I am like brushing my teeth, and it comes to my head, and I start like drawing in the mirror, like the stitch shapes, and my husband is like, what are you doing? What is happening here? I'm like, oh, just had this great idea, and before I forget, I want to see if it works, and things like that. And I, like I said, like I have little like post-it notes and notebooks and things with like drawings and things like that everywhere. And sometimes it's very like, I think it also depends on the yarn that I'm going to use. Sometimes like the colors tell their own story, and then I just go from there. But yeah, it's mostly, or like just like thinking, like I said, like about a word, and then it kind of all, how does this word look like in stitches?
Yes.
How does this word look like when you're wearing it? You know, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely do a lot of that with like I start with the concept, whether it's a word or a place or that's how most of my design ideas start. So then do you sketch how does your process work from you have this initial idea to do you swatch and then write the pattern and then knit it, or do you knit it and write the pattern at the same time, or how does your process work there?
I do a little sketch. I have a notebook with all my, like, the actual things that I design, not just my ideas, because there's a difference. So I have like my notebook for idea and my notebook for like actually, okay, this is happening. So I always go like yarn, needles, like the things that I need to remember that I know that I'm going to have to write down
Yes,
later on.
so important.
Yeah. And then like I do a little sketch. It's never something complicated. I never bring out the colors, you know, like it's just like with the pen. I do like the shape. I'm like, sometimes I don't even understand the sketch when I go back to it. Like, what? Okay. And I just like try to figure it out later as I go. And then I just like, I start like, okay, cast on this much. I write it down, I cast on, and then from there I start. It depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes I am able to like make sections. So I'm like, just like, I just write like repeat section one, repeat this, repeat that, do this, add this, you know, things like that. Sometimes it's a show that, or a design that every step has a different instruction. Those ones take a long time, but because I have to, I write, I count, like I told you, like even if I feel confident, I also know myself. I sometimes forget the kids' names, so I'm like, I need to write everything down because I'm going to forget something if I don't. Um, but yeah, like I just like kind of write it down and do this, and I have like, now I have a project bag for socks, a project bag for personal knitting, and a project bag for whatever it is that I'm also designing at the same time as the socks. And then there's no books in each bag, so I know what's going on, what's happening, you know,
Yes.
to make my life a little bit easier.
Yes. So do you have a favorite part of the design process? Like what a favorite part, the design, the idea creation, or the knitting or pattern writing, or do you
I like the idea creation. That is a part that I enjoy a lot. I also love knitting it.
yeah.
Obviously, because if I didn't like knitting it, then why am I designing this? But one part I would say maybe I like I enjoy every part of the process. I feel like the part that I enjoy the least is when the pattern has to go out to the test knitters. That makes me feel very anxious. I don't understand. I don't think that people understand that this is like my little baby. And now I'm giving it to you, and I want you to like it, and I want you to understand it, and I want it to work, you know. And it's very scary when it goes out and it's not longer yours. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm making any sense, but you know.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean because it's always it's like in your head, it's kind of it's like perfect. It's your perfect little baby and you're so excited about it and you just want to believe that it's perfect.
Yeah.
And if a test student comes back and doesn't think it's perfect, it's kind of it's really frustrating. It kind of can feel like a knock to your confidence, even though obviously you want it to really be good when you publish it. So
Yeah.
it's so valuable, but it can all it there's definitely a
But
lot.
it's nerve wracking. Like at the end of the day, I'm still just a person.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
like, and this is me being vulnerable and sharing this part of me with you. You know, like, but yes, it's always appreciated. And what I now, after like, you know, like after a while of being designing my own patterns, now when I like send it, I don't feel like as anxious. And when I have any like my testers have any doubts or anything like that, I always think like it's just a stitch. Like it's not them judging me as a person, or like
Yes.
it's just a stitch. It's
Yeah.
nothing bad is going to happen. Like maybe I forgot. Like recently, I was just talking to some of my testers, and I was so excited about writing it down that I forgot like half of the sentence.
Yes.
So they asked me like, "This doesn't make any sense because when I do it, it doesn't work." I was like, "What do you mean it doesn't work? Like I did it, and then I went back to the notebook, and I was like, oh, oops. Like yeah, it doesn't work because I forgot half of the instructions. Like, I'm sorry, we need to change that, but."
Yeah.
And that is exactly what that is what the test meters are there for.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. Also a little bit embarrassing, but that's okay. I'm used to the a little bit embarrassing part of things in my life now. Like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely get more used to it. You also mentioned like kind of have to remember we're just humans. And I think that's such a valuable thing as business owners, but also as designers, is letting go of this idea of perfectionism. Like we don't have to be perfect. Obviously, we want things to be as good as they can be. But at the end of the day, we're humans. And that's okay. And we can accept that
Yeah,
humans aren't perfect.
there's, like it's okay if I make a mistake. It's okay. Nothing's
Yeah.
it's not going to be the end of the world. Or I don't know. I always, even for me, like I always, when I'm knitting and I made a mistake and I have to frog, I'm like, this is exactly why I should love this, because I can just frog and fix whatever it needs to be fixed, and then go back to it and still love it. Also,
Yeah.
like for me,
Not
one
permanent.
part that I have learned to love about the design process is the part where I have to undo the whole thing and start again. It's like it happens every time. It doesn't, but it's good because I'm like, sometimes you have this idea and in paper it makes a lot of sense, and and you did this drawing and it looks amazing, and then you're knitting it and it's like, oh, this doesn't look very nice. This is not going to, and you can feel it. So what's the point of keep knitting something that's not going to be what you imagine? So there's always, for me at least, I don't know if it's the same for you, but I like that. I know that is going to happen. There's going to be a point in the design process where I have to frog, go back, like reevaluate, fix, and then start again. And then it's like, oh, this is perfect. I'm glad
Yeah.
that I decided like it wasn't working and it was not what I was thinking.
Yeah, and I think that like the really reassuring thing is knowing that it will always be worth it, because it's like if you try to publish something that doesn't feel right and that you're not happy with, you're never gonna love it.
Yeah, you look
But if
at it and you're like, oh.
you take the time to go ahead and go back and fix it, you end up with a design and a pattern that you're so happy with and so excited to share.
Yes. And it
So,
translates when you're speaking about your patterns, when it's something that you really love.
mhm.
Like it, just the way that you come across when speaking about it is different. When it's something that you're like, oh, well, I kind of did this, but it's maybe not that awesome. So
Yeah, and you talk about it a lot less often because you're just kind of embarrassed about it and don't really want anybody to know about
yeah. Oh, maybe I shouldn't even tell people about it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your designs in general, how would you describe them? Like for my followers that are listening in and that aren't familiar with work, how would you describe your designs?
I would say that my designs are simple.
Mm-hmm.
They are mindful in a way that they are easy to remember, and you can get lost in the knitting, and you don't have to be looking at things to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And yeah, like they're just like mindful, simple, and they are modern looking. So
Yeah.
those are the three words that I would use to describe my patterns.
Yeah. Do you have any of your designs with you to show?
Yeah, I brought the sunshine tulip shawl.
Oh yes, that one's so pretty. I love that center section.
Yes, it's very nice with the honeycombs.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is like two different colors, but they blend so perfectly together that, you know, it just gives
Yeah.
it a nice, and then by the end it has like this brioche border, which I love. Just
Yes.
like something a little bit thicker to hold like the weight of them. And then, oh, I brought this one as well. Here, I'll show you. The a simple cowl.
Yeah.
This cowl actually has a funny story. One was some of the neat ladies that I used to go to the library with. They went to New York for like the Vogue. I don't remember what, like a show. And when they came back, one of the ladies brought me this, and she said that she's friends with the lady who dyes this yarn, and that she was like looking for someone to design something, and she said that she knew me, so she brought me this skein of yarn, and she told me, I want you, like, we would like to we would like for you to design a simple cowl. And I was like, okay. So this is what I came up with. This is when I was I just had learned how to knit brioche, and
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to design something that had, like, that didn't look so intimidated for someone who, like me, had just learned or wanted to learn. So it has like the lace section, which is like very simple, and then the brioche. And yeah, and I even named it a simple cowl. This is the perfect name for this. Uh,
It's so cute.
yeah.
And that's another thing, just about designing in general. I think it's so interesting how there can be it can be such a simple design and yet like leave such a big impact. Can be so beautiful without having some. I don't know. I especially what I like to wear. I tend to like to wear stuff that's a lot more simple, and not super busy. But of
Mhm.
course, like we talked about before, some people love a lot more intricate stuff that's busier, and that's totally fine. That's the cool thing about being able to create our own things that we're wearing, if we can choose what it looks like and make our own adjustments and things like that too.
Yeah. Yes, and it's true, and that's like we were saying. There's something for everyone. If you like something more complicated, you will find it. And even like I feel me like in my design, like what in my different designs, you can definitely tell when I was going through a phase of I want something that is easy, and I want something that I can just sit and really enjoy without having to think. Also, like, I mean, I have three kids. There's like always things. It's like, and there's also other times, like for example, when I did this, and it's a lot of like lace, like
Yes.
it's all lace. And I was very intimidated at the beginning. I was like, I think it's going to look beautiful, but this is very, like, I never do this. And now I'm like, oh, I love it. I'm so happy I did this. And it wasn't as hard as I thought. And it was something that I could just like drop the needles and come back and be like, oh yeah, I'm here. I can keep going, which is something that I feel most of my designs have. You can just like pick them up and start and not have to worry that, I missed 3 rows or whatever. Like they're easy to remember.
Yeah. Maria Elise shared that she loved learning brioche while knitting that cowl that you designed. Little bitty delights. Sometimes just knitting something simple is needed. I love the more intricate designs, but knit and wear the simple designs. I'm totally with you. I like it. Usually I really like engaging knits, in part because this is my full-time job and because I don't have kids running around. Um, so I want something that occupies my brain a lot more. But in the last few months, I've been loving very simple knits. That's been my jam. And so just everything, there tends to be seasons and things. There's
Yeah.
seasons in our knitting, and I think it's totally okay as designers to also show those seasons. Like we don't have to stick to something regimented just for the sake of.
And I think that is also like important that we still keep our voice when we're going through those phases, you know, like what I just said, like I can design something that is more intricate and still keep it simple and mindful, you know, and I can also design something that is very simple that you and it's still like it still has my voice there. Yeah.
Yes, yes, I love it so much. So one question I have for you is, are your kids interested in knitting?
They're more interested in me knitting things for them
Yes.
than learning how to knit. I tried with them just like you know, like with crochet, like just giving them a hook and let's do all the slip stitches. Like it doesn't, no. They get frustrated and they want to see the thing right away. Or you know, but they always have opinions about what I'm doing. So or they give me ideas. Like for example, today I was driving my oldest to the allergist. We had an appointment today, and we were talking. I was like, "Oh, tell me about your life." When he finished talking about his life, he asked me, "What about you, Mom? What's up with you?" And I said, like, "Oh, well, I'm having like a life today with my friend." And he's like, "Oh, and are you nervous?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm always nervous, of course." And he's like, "No, Mom, you know what?" He's like giving me his ideas, and he's like, you need to start with like a fun, like a joke or like something funny so people don't leave. I'm like, what? Don't put any more pressure. Like I cannot think about funny things. But he's like that, and sometimes I'm meeting and he's like, oh, you really should do like this and that and not this, and I'm looking at them like, okay. But you know, like they always see me doing things, so, and they have their opinions and suggest colors and things like that. So it's fun, and they help me a lot with like my reels. They help me with my pictures for the patterns. Like they give me ideas. They come with me to like wherever we go for the pictures. So it's fun. It has become a little bit of a family activities at some point.
Yeah, that's so fun. I love it. And it'll be really interesting to see, you know, if they do grow interest in knitting later down or not. Obviously, not everybody has to be a knitter, but I have my two youngest siblings are quite a bit younger than me, 7 and 11 years. And so I have tried to get them to knit, and my sister hasn't had a whole lot of interest in it. My brother, when he was maybe 10 or so, he was a little bit interested. He started like a scarf and stuff. But yes, it's really interesting, you know, like my mom doesn't knit at all, so I wasn't around it growing up or anything. But then to just curious to see what happens with your kid.
You know, it's funny that you say that because my mom, well, I have to tell you, this is a funny story. I have always thought that my mom doesn't know how to knit.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, and it's not, and this is like recent, like it's like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. She's like, "Oh no, I used to knit. Like I did a lot of clothes for you when you were a baby." And I was like, "And where are those clothes? Like, where are the blankets? Where are the things? Why haven't you said anything to me? Like you see that I'm knitting like." And she's like, "No, it didn't occur to me to tell you." I was like, "Oh, Mom."
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I just found out 2 years ago, my grandma came out and visited us and found out that she used to be a knitter and did, like, knit herself sweaters and all this stuff. And then she had 6 kids and she kind of quit, you know, when she got busy with kids. But like, how did I never know? I actually helped teach my other grandma how to knit when I was like in high school a little bit, but yeah, I had no idea. My other grandma, she's like, yeah, I like knit some sweaters and I did this and that. And, you know, yeah, I did a bit of knit. I'm like, you were like a knitter, grandma.
Yeah. It's fun, or maybe because they think it's not, you know, such a big deal, but you're like, oh my goodness. Yeah. For me, it's just fun to see. Like my mom didn't even think about mentioning it to me until like 4 years ago. I'm like, okay, Mom, thank you. But it's fun. I mean, I really enjoy it. I know, like, I have two sisters. My little sister likes it as well, but she prefers like crochet instead of knitting. But she doesn't have any time as well. So it's like, okay, well, but at least I know there's someone who can understand my, passion about yarn and knitting in the family.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, otherwise it's sometimes a little bit lonely.
Yes. Yes. I don't have family members that can really relate, but I have all of these lovely folks online. So that helps a lot.
Yeah. But, like, I don't know, does your family sometimes, like, kind of like, like cheer you on or things like that with your like designs?
Um, my sister has become a lot more of a confident on the business side. She kind of did a project her last year of high school, about a year ago now, where she was trying to create a photography business and learn some of the business stuff from me. So now I can talk to her about that side of things. My sister-in-law, when I sold stuff on Etsy, she bought some of my hand knits, and she's very kind and supportive. I don't talk to her all that much. But it was been several years. My mom has always been like, she's kind of stopped now, but it was always, you need to go get a real job.
Okay. Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe because I come like my parents, like there was always like things and a lot of entrepreneurship going around in my household. But my dad, who doesn't have any clue at all about knitting or the knitting world or anything, he would call me sometimes. He's, what are you working on? And he used to teach architecture in university as well. So I feel like sometimes I'm like his student. He starts like, what are you working on? And why are you doing this? And how is this going to work? And why don't you do this? Or why don't you add this and then make it like this? So I at least like feel like he makes an effort to, be involved in the things that I like. My mom, she like when she comes visit, she will like model things for me and things like that. And I give her things and she wears them and she takes pictures and she sends them to me. And she's like, oh, somebody asked me where I got this from. And I said that you made it and things like that. So I don't know. It makes me feel a little bit special that they maybe don't really understand exactly what it is that I'm doing, but they are always cheering on me and being supportive in whatever way they can be. Like 2 years ago, I told my dad, like, I feel like it's time for me like to be more serious about my design business, and I want to get a website, and I want to, like things like that, like the more behind the scenes kind of things that not everybody sees. And he was so nice. It's like, oh, don't, yes, you have to do this and you have to do that and talk here and talk there, and I can help you out like with the website stuff, like for like the money and things like that, because like, I don't know if you have enough money to do all that, so don't worry, like I will lend you some money, you can do this. So they are very supportive of me, which is nice.
Yeah.
That they have always encouraged, and I feel like it is important also that my kids see that they encourage me, because when I want them, when they grow up, I want them to be like, you really can be whatever you want to be. Like mom wanted to be a knitter and she became a knitter, and she designs her things, instead of being, like one thinking that I have them under this like little box. I want them to be able to be like, why not, my mom did this and this was not something that, like they say, like in the olden days, when they refer about me, like talking about the mama in the olden days where you were young. I'm like, that is very mean, guys. But anyways, like maybe in the olden days being a knitter was not like a normal job.
Yes, yes. And I should give my mom a little bit more credit. I think she does a lot more stalking of my my Instagram page, but she sees a lot of what I do and like hearts it and, likes it. And I was talking to her on the phone last week or the week before, and she's like, yeah, I just watched your whole Instagram live, just my weekly knit chat video. It was a whole hour long, and I'm like, wow, I'm really impressed. Did you get really bored? So, she might listen to this one as well, but yeah, my family isn't the kind to know how to just express support and gratitude and share those kinds of emotions. So I'm sure that's also a lot of it. It's not like she's or my family in general against me, but they're just don't know how to show support.
And maybe they show it in the ways that they know how, even if it's not like the ways that you would expect. That is also, like, I feel like sometimes we have to let go of certain expectations that we have and understand that people are meeting you where they are able to meet you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you saw, but Steel City Stitchery said in the real olden days it was a very important job.
It's true. But I'm not going to tell that to the kids because then they're going to think of me like, I don't know how many centuries ago.
Yes.
They laugh when I tell them like, oh, like when I was growing up, like we used to like record like the cassettes, like things like that.
Yes.
When my husband and I were dating, like we would like exchange CDs with the songs that we like and things like that. I was like, the voice was like, what is a CD? What is this? Like, what do you mean that you got it on the radio and you put it on the, like they're like, they cannot understand. I'm like, oh my goodness, guys, you miss so much of those fun things.
Yes. All right. Okay, I have two more things. First of all, I want you to tell us about what you do for your selfish knits. You don't call them selfish knits, but instead they're self-care knits.
Yeah. I have my self-care knitting projects. So I take Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays off from working on things that I am designing. And I spend those 3 days working on a pattern that someone else designed, of something that I really want to do, to make, or that I want to wear at some point, whenever it is that I finish it. And it has been an amazing experience because one, you never stop learning. The only way to learn is to keep working, knitting someone else's patterns, seeing new things, new ideas, new constructions, things like that. Mm-hmm. And two, it's just like a perfect way to let go of all the things that are going through my head and for designs that I have to work on. And it helps like cleans my mind and helps me come back on Monday a little bit more energized and also with new ideas. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I've been doing that. And honestly, I would recommend it to anyone who is a knitwear designer. Because sometimes we think we're going to take the day off. That was me before. I'm going to take the day off. So it meant I'm not going to maybe post about it, but I'm still writing. I'm still knitting. I'm still taking the pictures, Mm-hmm. And but now I'm like, these 3 days, I'm not touching it. It's in the bag. It's going to stay there. If I have an idea, well, the idea has to wait until Monday. I am taking a break and I am working on something else. And it's been great because I have also had a chance to like knit more sweaters for myself. You don't always have the time for that. So,
Yes, yeah. I love it so much. I mean, first of all, starting with the fact that you call it self-care knitting. I love that. But then also, as a designer, it can be so hard to take time for other patterns. We see so many other designs, and I often joke, like I'll see a bunch of designs and I'm like, oh, I guess I need to stop designing so that I can actually knit other, like yeah. I kind of realized how much I love Alicia Plummer's designs this last winter, and I'm like, she has so many designs that I love. Maybe I should just stop designing so I can start knitting all of her patterns.
You have to take a sabbatical.
Yes. Okay, my last question, which I had intended to ask earlier, but basically I wanted to ask more about, you shared some in a post that we had posted earlier, but your other hobbies and forms of creativity, and do you feel like those integrate well with your knitwear design? Like, do they affect each other, or is it just another, I shouldn't say just, is it a different kind of creative outlet for you?
I would say that they are both.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for me, I feel like everything in my life at some point has impacts the other thing. Like there's no way that can have like separate things. There's always, but for example, I love, like I said, like I love reading, and I host a book club. And also my friend, she hosts another book club, and I'm also part of that one. And it's just great. By the end of the day, I sit down with my book. Everybody is asleep. I am a night owl, so I don't mind being awake until 2 a.m. reading. But also, like, everybody is asleep, and I'm not gonna be knitting. I'm not gonna be thinking about it, and it's perfect for me just to disappear for a little bit in a story or something else and calm my brain before I can go to bed. So I love reading. It's just something that I have always loved since I was a little kid. And then, for example, I also love like doodling, or like trying different calligraphy or typographies and things like that. And I just have fun doing that. It's not even something that I spend a lot of time on, to be honest. Mm-hmm. It's sometimes maybe I would sit for 15 minutes in the week, like not even in the day. Like 1 week I will sit 15 minutes and I will be like doing that. And it's just also a really good way to like let go and just kind of calm my brain a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes I go back to that and I'm like, oh, this could look really nice like this. And if I put it here and I use it like that. So everything is connected. but I enjoy it a lot. And not a lot of things that I always force myself to do, but the reading is something that is not that I have to force myself. I cannot stop myself. Actually, sometimes I have to be like, I have to put the book down because I have to go knit, because I went to bed like really late, and then I woke up and the only thing that I could think of was that I really want to finish this book. Yes. So I'm just going to read, but for me, I'm just going to read translates to I might sit down and finish the whole thing in one sitting, and I kind of like not care about all my other things that I have to do. So I have to like be really, I try to just do it at night. So it's like, it doesn't interrupt my knitting time, because it would like easily take over.
Yes, I can totally relate. I haven't been so great about spending time reading as an adult, but I definitely can totally relate when I let myself get into a book. It's so hard to get out of it.
Like, what are we going to eat today? I don't know. I'm reading. Like order something, like don't bother me. I need to finish this. So yeah,
leave me alone.
But it's nice. For example, like the kids love to read. So like the last summer we went camping, and my oldest brought a book, and he would just like go inside the tent and read the book, because he was like, I'm done with you people. I need to go read my book. And then he had this goal of like, he wanted to stay up really late. So he had his flashlight and his book, and everybody went to sleep, and he was like still reading the tent, and he was so proud of himself. Like he was the last one to go to bed. Things like that. But it's nice, that to see that they share your passions and things like that. And I don't know, I love it.
Yes, I can't remember where I saw it, but I just saw like yesterday something where it was somebody had shared, it was a little kid under 10. I don't remember how old exactly, but my daughter loves to read, and she feels like she's such a rebel going to bed and reading at night. But she hasn't ever wondered why her flashlight batteries never go dead. So the parents are fueling it by making sure, she has a flashlight, but she feels like such a rebel because she's reading.
It's a good way to be a rebel. I complain that much if that was the rebel years of my kids when they grow up. But yeah. And then I saw that Maria Liz wrote that that's why she loves audiobooks. Yes, now what happens is that during the day I have my earphones on, And I'm just like listening to this and knitting, or, doing whatever it is I need to do. And at night, I sit down and read. So now I have like 3 or 4 books going on at the same time, because the ones that I'm listening to, the other one for book club, the other book club, the one that I want to read. But it's good. My husband is always looking at me like, how do you know, like, when you pick up the book, like, you're reading 4 things at the same time. How do you know what you're reading? I'm like, oh no, I am very good at that. For that, I have a very good memory. For the rest of the things in the house and things like that, it's like, I forget everything.
Yes, I also love audiobooks. And that you can listen to them anytime you're not actually having to like interact with people, basically, or focus really hard on writing something, whether it's knitting or exercising or doing the dishes or
Yeah.
eating or laundry or yeah. Yes, I would totally agree. Well, we've got a bit over, but thank you so much, Cam, for
No,
joining
this was a
us.
lot of fun. Thank you for inviting me. It was fun.
Yes, and I will continue to do this every month. We don't have a date finalized yet, but I think our next guest is going to be Emma with Bloom and Create in March. So I'm really looking forward to that. And for folks who are designers and interested in more resources for designers, I do have the Design Circle. The link is in my bio. But Cam, where can folks find you online?
Well, I have also all the links are in my bio. Here on Instagram, I am at Handknit by Cam. I'm on Rubberly, and I also have my website. If you don't use Rubberly anymore, you can find all my patterns there. And yeah.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who joined us live and commented. And if anybody's watching the replay, also thank you for watching. And feel free to leave any comments down and we'll respond to them. But thanks so much, Cam. This was fun. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. The same to you.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.